This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Yes, follow the money. Paulie and the Moose. Mitch out all week. VSiN, the sports betting network. And a loaded show coming up. We'll talk to Nick Whalen at the bottom of the hour. Win totals we like. Little NFC East as Moose is back from Giants camp and practice. Also talk to Love My Baxter in studio coming up. Prison guard for over 20 years. We'll dig into that. And also one Grandissimo last year had a share of that entry, and one Survivor with 2 entries in 2021. And Paul Charchian starting his weekly visits. We'll talk some props, AFC North, and also fantasy with all the drafts, surprises, disappointments, who to take, double shot with Charch coming up. Moose, good to see you. How you doing, friend?
I'm doing well, Paulie. Good to see you as well. I think last time that I filled in for Mitch, it was right before Christmas. We were talking Harbaugh coaching search, yes! New York Giants.
You nailed it.
That's the last time I did a show with you, so it's good to be back. Football right around the corner. We already got the Hall of Fame game in a rearview mirror.
Yep.
More preseason action coming this week, so good to see you as always.
Yep. We'll run down some movement. Seattle took money today. We have games this week. There's 6 games on Thursday. We'll talk about those coming up in a second. We can start there since you called it and you just got back from practice. We're on opposite sides here of the win total. What do you think of the Giants this year and all the hype and the number one bet team over with their win total?
Yeah, you know what bothers me, Paulie, first off, is that everyone loves them. Aside from you. I mean, everyone, yeah. You know, I talk to a lot of people around the league, and a lot of people are pinpointing the Giants as to be that team, not necessarily make the playoffs, but that Harbaugh is going to have a real impact year number 1. And I think there's something to be said for that. I don't think there's any question about it. Listen, there's a lot to like. He's got an expanded coaching staff, there's no doubt. Year 2, when you're looking at Jackson Dart, great that Malik Neighbors didn't start on the PUP list. I think Isaiah Likely is going to be a fantasy star. I think he's going to be a star at the tight end position as long as he can stay healthy, and he's going to be used a lot in that Matt Nagy offense. And you look at the offensive line with Mayonoa being drafted to play guard out of Miami, 10th overall. As long as Andrew Thomas stays healthy at the left tackle position, there's a lot to like about that offensive line. Defensively, the front 7, even with the loss of Dexter Lawrence, I don't think is going to be really much of an issue because I think they can get after the quarterback. And everything you're hearing about Arvell Reese early on in camp after the 12 days down in West Virginia is real. The concern you'd have about the Giants is a little bit of the cornerback situation when you're looking at Newsome, Paulson Adebo. Obviously, some of the guys they drafted, Hood, the kid out of Tennessee in the 2nd round. That's a little bit of a concern, but I think the early returns on Denard Wilson's defense is that they're going to attack. I think overall, coaching matters in the National Football League. We saw it last year with Liam Cohen down in Jacksonville, Mike Vrabel up there in New England. Look at the job that Sean Payton's done out there in Denver. So Harbaugh was never, as the owner and the Ravens said, was never going to go to a place that didn't have didn't have a quarterback in place. He believes in Jackson Dart. I think Dart's going to take a massive step forward this year, and I have concerns about some other teams at NFC East. So you and I are going to be on opposite sides of things.
All right.
I think the Giants are feeling pretty good about themselves.
Good breakdown. I'm concerned about the hype, and everyone likes them. Number 2, always the slow starts. Number 3, the schedule.
Yep.
Maybe you don't think it's that difficult then, because I think it's a difficult schedule. Can you think they can get to 8 wins, though?
Well, I think they can, but let's be honest. I mean, if they're able to find a way in that Sunday night game, and that's going to be a huge game against the Dallas Cowboys, I don't think they're going out to Los Angeles and knocking off the Rams on Monday Night Football, right? So the Rams have separated themselves not only from everybody in the NFC, but everybody in the National Football League. But then you come back home, it's the Titans and the Cardinals. You have concerns now in Washington. Laramie Tunsil with the torn tricep. Obviously, Jane Daniels got to stay healthy, but they're adding Stephon Diggs into that wide receiver room. And then you get the Saints at home, right? So, and then you take on the Texans where, what version of C.J. Stroud are you going to get this season for the Houston Texans? Defensively, it's a championship defense. There's no doubt about it, but defense can also score, right? And they're not going to be the 85 Bears, or they're not going to be, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with John Lynch anchoring that defense from in the back end. So I look at the Giants where I think the schedule is set up to where if they're able to knock off Dallas, you could be looking at a 3-1 football team through the first 4 games, conceivably speaking, if things go really, really well. I think the thing to follow about the Giants, though, is the continued progress Harris and Malik Neighbors, because there's nobody in that receiver room that can do on the football field what Malik Neighbors can do.
And so you might be down on other teams in the division. As you said, Tunsil got hurt over the weekend, and I don't know what to expect out of Washington, who went from 12-5 to 5-12.
Yeah, and that's the other issue. They were really old last year. I mean, Paulie, you saw that team a year ago. They went all in. They added Tunsil. They added Deebo Samuel, who was a disaster year one, and then he's now back signing a one-year, $7 million deal with the San Francisco 49ers. You had guys like Von Miller on defense. I mean, they were just really, really old, and I think their GM, Adam Peters, looked at it and said, I'm going to lean into it. I think we're one step away, and then other issues reared their ugly head. Then you throw in the other aspect, massive changes on that coaching staff for Dan Quinn during the course of the offseason as well. Listen, is Jane Daniels going to be able to stay healthy? He takes an inordinate amount of hits, and he is not the most, I wouldn't say frail. He's very thin if you've ever seen Jane Daniels in person. So you say to yourself, okay, when you look at Daniels, can he stay upright? Can he stay healthy? We know he can throw the football. We know he can really spin it. He was really special his rookie year. I'm not taking anything away from him. I have concerns in other areas of that team. And I have concerns about whether or not they're going to be able to run the football. And now you throw in a big concern with that offensive line, because they heavily invested in that trade to go get Laramie Tunsil. And now he got hurt over the weekend, Paulie, as you mentioned, with that torn tricep.
So the Giants play Saturday morning against the Vikings. That total is moved 2 points, 38.5 up to 40.5. Good quarterback rotation, Dart, Winston, Allen. And for the Vikings, it's Murray, McCarthy, and Wentz as they're battling out who's going to be the number one quarterback there. Murray should win it, but that's a big move that happened in the game Saturday morning. How about also the news over the weekend? The Bengals are up to 7 against the Lions Thursday. That opened 3.5. Bridgewater retires. He took a couple days off for personal reasons and then said, I can't do it anymore. So Luke Altmaier, undrafted rookie, is going to have to take the majority of the snaps for the Lions on Thursday, and they're on a 2-9 straight-up run in the preseason. Big move on the Bengals. How about the news where Teddy, the veteran and a good locker room presence, says that's it for me and calling it quits?
Yeah, I mean, he's had enough. For a guy that came out of Louisville and had big expectations for Teddy Bridgewater, he got a nice career. It's not a bad thing to be a backup quarterback in the National Football League, Paul. You're making a lot of money. You're making a lot of money if you could go out there and do that. So, yeah, Teddy Two Gloves calls it a career. Not exactly what you want to see, and now you understand the line movement when you're looking at the Bengals and the Lions.
Yes, that's moved as well, and they signed Dobbs to a 1-year deal. I can't imagine he's ready to go. Maybe a couple snaps on Thursday for the Lions. How about all the injuries with the Bears? I mean, it won't stop. Burden's out for the at least the preseason, and there's cluster injuries in the secondary that Allen's not happy about, and they have to juggle going through. And I don't mind playing against them in their first preseason game as well with the Browns. And the Browns also have a quarterback battle, not only between Watson and Sanders, but also is going to be the backup. But so many injuries with the Bears already, Moose.
Yeah, a ton. I mean, and that's where you say, okay, well, can Caleb Williams, not necessarily here in the preseason. I agree with your point, and I would agree with your take in terms of fading Chicago here a little bit due to all those injuries. But when you take a look at Chicago on the whole, Paulie, you know, Caleb looked like a different guy when he first met with the media when training camp opened up. I'm sure you guys talked about it, where he's down 15 pounds. And I think Ben Johnson, year 2 now with Caleb Williams under his guys and his guidance. And you're looking at that offense to where last year was really, really good. I think they're expecting Caleb Williams to take another step forward this year, and he's got the talent to go out there and do it. I don't think there's any question. And when you're looking at true franchise quarterbacks in the NFL, how many times you see it with Joe Burrow? You see it with Josh Allen. You see it with Patrick Mahomes. Now, listen, Williams is not there yet. But conceivably speaking, that's why you draft him first overall out of USC, is to potentially get to that level to where you can make up for a lot of deficiencies on your team. And Chicago might just have to do that before they get some of these guys that are banged up back in the lineup.
Yep. Also, quarterback battle in Tennessee for the backup spot. I'm sure you saw this. Will Levis says, I'm one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the league. He's fighting it out with Trubisky as a backup. Tennessee money. Up to 3 against the 49ers Thursday. Shanahan says he will coach, and also came in today some respected money on Seattle, and it hasn't been good as they take on the Cowboys. Schottenheimer is questioning the effort and how bad the practices have been for the Cowboys. They also, since 2008, 7-24 straight up, Dallas in the preseason. And you got Darnold, Locke, and Milroe with the quarterback rotation with Seattle. They're up to 3.5 in some spots, Moose.
When does Will Levis take a little bit of humble pie? I mean, he
no
stinks.
kidding.
I mean, like when do you look in the mirror and be like, you know what? I'm thankful that I'm still battling for something in the National Football League. I mean, he had every single opportunity to do something in the NFL. Listen, confidence is king, Paul. You see it all over, not just in the National Football League. You got to be the biggest fan of yourself. But
yeah,
I mean, at some point, somebody's got to pull Will Levis aside and say, listen, here's the reality of the situation. You know what? Maybe you could carve out a nice backup career for the rest of your career. But honestly, if you're looking at it, I'd rather have Trubisky backing me up than Will Levis, even with the limitations of Mitch Trubisky.
Yes, and that's a good reason to bet on Tennessee, I think, Thursday night. With all the injuries with the 49ers, and you have Trubisky and Levis fighting for that backup spot, and they should get the majority of the snaps in that game as they're 3 at DraftKings coming up against the Niners. And you have the new coach angle with Saleh, who's 10-3 career in the preseason, and that new coach angle, 60% ATS the last 5 years, although it didn't work out in the Hall of Fame game. And the star of that game, Haynes King, got hurt. So Trask, Carolina had to sign Trask as well. Moose has a lot of win totals that he likes. We'll kick around some NFL win totals coming up on the other side, a plethora of picks and a couple of more tidbits and moves week 1 of the NFL preseason. Also, we'll check in and hear from Ian Rappaport. This is some stunning news that a quarterback who was a top 5 pick could be gone and might just be a journeyman for the rest of his career. We'll hear from Ian Rappaport coming up on Follow the Money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stick it here.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. Use promo code TRYRTN for a 5-day free trial.
This is VSiN, a network of sports betting analysts, writers, hosts, and handicappers, all here to help you become a more confident bettor. We broadcast live every day from Las Vegas, the sports betting capital of the world, and from studios across the country, giving you insight from every angle of the action. Take VSiN with you wherever you go with the VSiN Watch app, or catch us on streaming platforms and regional sports networks. You can also listen live on SiriusXM Channel 158 and on radio stations nationwide. Check out VSiN.com as well for betting tools, exclusive betting splits, AI-powered player prop projections from Opta, pro picks for every game, plus in-depth betting guides and articles built to give you an edge. From sharp betting analysis and daily best bets to insider interviews and expert breakdowns, VSiN is your trusted source for everything happening in the world of sports betting. See everything we have to offer at VSiN.com and become part of the Sports Betting Network.
Hey everybody, Stormy Bonantoni here. Coming up Tuesday on Money Moves, John Jastrzemski and I are back and just in time to deep dive into college football and NFL futures. Our NFL training camp tour makes a stop in Cincinnati to preview the Bengals. I'll tell you why I love this play on their season win total over and why Mr. Jastrzemski and I are at odds on who wins the AFC North. Plus, they say it just means more in the SEC. Does insider Lance Taylor think the league can get back to winning national titles in 2026? It all starts Tuesday at 11 Pacific, 2 Eastern on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Nick Whalen coming up in 15 minutes. Talk to him about a little NFL, fantasy, and some NBA win totals that he likes. Paulie and the Moose, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We'll get to some win totals we like coming up. First of all, how about the news that it looks like it's almost a done deal, almost 90% on Kelce, that Donald's going to come back, another workout, and join the Rams. They are as low as 5-1 at Caesars to win the Super Bowl. You like their win total over, but this goes back, we'll get to this later. Bill Barnwell, ESPN.com, has a good article about a Super Bowl favorite this short and how they've done in the past. This is going to be scary if they add him to what the pieces they have, and then Garrett can take some pressure off him as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, we were talking a little bit about it, Paulie, during the course of the break. What version of Aaron Donald are we going to get? He's been out of the league for a while, and he's in his mid-30s. I mean, that would be the only. Now, you might say, well, it doesn't matter. If they're able to only use him as a bit player, he's not the same player he once was, but put him in specific downs, and they've got a snap count on him in and game out. Listen, I don't doubt the competitive nature of Aaron Donald. He's one of the greatest interior defensive linemen that we have ever seen. But even without him, the Rams are the prohibitive favorite because of what Stafford did the last year with the 46 touchdown passes and the offensive line, the brilliance of McVay, what they did in terms of being aggressive and going out there and getting Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns during the course of the offseason. There's really nothing that they can't do. They can run it. They can throw it. They've got dynamic weaponry at the wide receivers. You saw McVay last year, even when he had injuries at the wide receiver spot, he made great use of 3 tight ends, and then they can get after the quarterback. And now, most importantly, they're going to have a fourth quarter pass rush with Myles Garrett to close out these games, something that they didn't have a year ago. So only injury can really prevent them. I don't think it's a case where you look at them and saying, well, we're building them up to be something that they're not. No, they're really talented. They're really good. And there's the reason why the betting markets are indicating that as well.
You think 14 wins? 15 wins?
I don't know about 14 or 15. Do I think they go 15-2? I think that's a little extreme. I mean, I think they can go 14-3. I mean, I do think that. I mean, I think they're going to beat the 49ers to kick off the season. I think they're knocking off the Giants. They're beating the Browns. I think they can go into Philadelphia and knock off the Eagles. I understand that they had some, tough losses a year ago, but there's nothing that they can't do on a football field. Mm-hmm. So, and I think McVay is supremely motivated. So when you're looking at their win total sitting there at 11.5, they went 12-5 a year ago. You mean to tell me now with Myles Garrett on that defense, they can't go out there and go 14-3? I think they can.
I like Detroit over because of the issues in Green Bay. Parsons not back till at least week 6. Minnesota I like, but still they don't have a lot of depth. And the Bears, the great story last year, but a lot of breaks went their way and also cluster injuries in the defense already. So Lions over. We're butting heads on the Giants. I like it under. Arizona under. I mentioned that last week. And Adam Chernoff had a good write-up on how bad the Miami Dolphins could be. That this would be playing from behind. He thinks maybe 1 or 2 wins. That's it, how bad Miami could be. So under 4.5, minus 160 there. How about the Jets? What do you think the Jets can do this year?
Yeah, Paul, he called me crazy. I like them over. It can't be as bad as it was a year ago, and it was really bad. But, Frank Reich comes in. He's now going to be calling plays. He's the offensive coordinator, and some believe maybe he's the future head coach of the New York Jets if things don't go well this year. I think the coaching staff has improved. Glenn is going to be calling plays defensively this year. Everything you hear about the second overall draft choice out of Texas Tech is that he is different, and he is going to be really good at getting after the quarterback. And here's the other thing. Everyone knocks Geno Smith. And Paul, you saw it out there in Vegas last year. He was terrible. But the Raiders were abysmal, and the offensive line was atrocious, and Carroll coming back embarrassed himself. So you mean to tell me now Geno Smith isn't going to be better than Justin Fields? I mean, as Woody Johnson said a year ago, Justin Fields had issues completing the forward pass. So you look at Geno, even though he is not the long-term solution, could he be an answer at quarterback for the Jets this year? I think he can. And I think the Jets can surprise some people because you're looking at their total sitting there at 5.5. Miami's going to be a doormat. I'm concerned about the Bills, especially the back end of that secondary. You look at New England, they were really good a year ago against a very favorable, easy schedule. I'm not telling you they're going to take a massive step back. You're looking to get to 6 wins. Can the Jets potentially get to 6 wins this year? I think they can. I think if they don't and they go under that number, I think they're going to be looking for a new head coach, or maybe Frank Reich is taking over.
Okay, so the Moose is on the Giants over, the Rams over, and the Jets over. I'm with you this one as well. Atlanta's only 6.5. And I know there's a lot of Denver's up to 5 now in their game against Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't have a quarterback right now. And Stefanski hasn't done well the last couple of years in the preseason. Denver up to 5 in that game. But regular season, I think that they had quarterback issues last year and still tied for the division lead. A lot of talent there, upgraded coach. I'm with you on Atlanta over 6.5.
Yeah, kind of similar. Now, I think, we were talking earlier about Harbaugh coaching matters in the National Football League. And I know he wore out his welcome out in Cleveland. Stefanski's a better coach than Raheem Morris as a head coach. He just is. And then you throw in Bijan Robinson. They don't have to deal with the contract headaches. He got paid. You've got Drake London. You know what they can do defensively. They've invested defensively in terms of getting after the quarterback. And now the biggest answer of all, the biggest concern of all, as you mentioned it, Paulie, is what are they going to do at quarterback here, whether it be Tua Tagovailoa or whether it be Michael Penix. And obviously that's gonna be one that plays out here. But they didn't really have great quarterback play, as you mentioned, a year ago, and they were still able. And you look at that division, the complexion of that to me is you're buying into Carolina to go out there and do exactly what they did a year ago. Concerns down in Tampa, Baker upset that he didn't go out there and get paid. I mean, that is a division to where I think they're all going to beat up on each other. The Saints, I like Tyler Shuck and the New Orleans Saints, but what and Olave got paid, but what is New Orleans going to be this season? I look at Atlanta, the number is so low to think that they can't get themselves to 7 wins on the season. I think they can.
Yep. Denver 5.5 now, Friday night, as Atlanta's stuck. They just signed Cooper Rush, and they have Jack Strand as their quarterbacks right now in the preseason. How about an under? You're against the Ravens. Tell us why.
I am. You know why? Because sometimes when you bring in a new head coach, there are a little bit of adjustments. And Ravens are, if you look at that Raven roster and the pressure's on with Harbaugh being let go and taking over the New York Giants, Jesse Minter coming in to be the head coach down there in Baltimore. And now you say, okay, now Baltimore is going to try. They're old in a lot of areas when you're looking at that team. And they need, they don't need Father Time to catch up with them a little bit. And you're talking about 11.5 victories. And I've been a big fan of Baltimore a couple years ago. Went into the playoffs, Paulie. I thought they were the best team in the National Football League, the game in which Andrews had the drop against the Buffalo Bills. And I thought they were going to get themselves to a Super Bowl. So you look at this Baltimore team. Do I still think they're a playoff team in the AFC? I do. I'm going to take under 11.5, though. I think that number is pretty extreme. So I'm going to go 11-6, something of that nature, where there's some learning curve or maybe a little bit of a learning curve for Jesse Minter as head coach.
Good knowledge, good stuff. Great to have the NFL back. Games Thursday.
Yeah.
Colts take on the Patriots. It's Tommy Cutlets for New England. They're laying 1.5. And the backup job between Anthony Richardson and Riley Leonard to back up Danny Dimes. This is interesting. Top 5 pick, Moose. And now might not even win the backup job, the fluke injury. Here's Ian Rappaport over the weekend on what could be next with his career.
Well, let's talk about Anthony Richardson, the former first-rounder, former top 10 pick who has really, really struggled, then suffered one of the most absurd and ridiculous injuries of all time last year, ended up getting into a injury situation with a stretchy band before the game, hurt his eye, was taken to the emergency room, was cleared, and now is back. And for Anthony Richardson, I think a couple things to me are clear. One, I would not be surprised if he's played his last down of football with the Indianapolis Colts. Just does not seem to be in the cards there for him to play quarterback for them. If he is going to be traded or if he's going to be on another team after the Colts eventually cut him, the real question is, how well can he see? And this is something for teams that they're going to have to address. He hurt his eye. He went to the hospital. He obviously can see some, but when he's going through it, it's a difference between seeing okay and can you feel and see the rushers on either side? Can you see the receivers downfield? Where is his eyesight and how healthy is he? I mean, these are some real questions that the Colts are going to have to answer, and Anthony Richardson is going to have to answer when he eventually gets a new team, guys.
This is incredible. I mean, the fact that he might not be able to see and now could be just a journeyman and can't even beat out Riley Leonard for the backup job. This reminds me of JPP with the fireworks. Well, they didn't know if he had his hand with how many fingers he had after that. But this, he's got the elastic band and it hits him in the eye. And now you don't even know if that guy can see the field anymore. This is a top 5 pick.
Yeah, crazy. And he had other issues as well when you're looking at, whether it be being in the building enough, studying enough. I mean, there's been a lot of reports about Anthony Richardson out there in Indianapolis. And you'd say to yourself, he's also a guy in the offseason that requested a trade, but there was no team that was willing to go out there and make a move for Anthony Richardson either. So I didn't know that. I mean, that is a stunning report by Rappaport over the course of the weekend in terms of his eyesight and where it is right now, Paulie. So stunning. You feel for him. You hope that's not the issue, that he can't hook on with another team in the NFL.
It seemed like it was over when he took himself out of the game and how everyone reacted to that in that performance a couple years ago. A couple of things in the NFC North with Nick Whalen. His weekly spot is back and some NBA win totals he loves coming up next on Follow the Money.
Biggest contest we've ever seen.
Seriously, what's the guarantee?
They're still talking about it.
I think it's time to put the rumors to rest.
Showtime.
$30 million.
$30 million?
$30 million?
$30 million?
That's $30 million guaranteed. 3 contests, multiple ways to win, no rate. Entry starting at $1,000. Enter in Nevada, play from anywhere.
Elevate your sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to vsin.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Games Thursday, 6 of them, and football's back. We'll talk to Paul Charchian later in the show. Fantasy angle and a little fantasy and talk with Nick Whalen from Prop Points. Joins us now, his weekly spot as NFL is back. He joins us on the Progressive guest line. Appreciate the time. Follow him on X at Whalen. No L, it's the number 1. We were just talking about the NFC North and how people are high on the Lions, and big reason why is the schedule. What do you think of Chicago, Minnesota, and Green Bay after Detroit with that rest of that league, Nick?
Yeah, I think this is, on paper at least, the toughest division in the NFL. And I think that'll be borne out once again this season. I think there was a case that it was last year as well, at least as far as the fourth place team in the division being the toughest out week to week. And I'm with the market consensus that Detroit is probably the best team in this division. I think the schedule is a huge reason for that. And we saw New England take advantage of the best schedule in football last year. I think it could be the Detroit Lions' turn. But guys, the other team that I'm really high on in this division, relatively speaking, of course, would be the Minnesota Vikings. And I know right now they're forecasted to be the fourth place team in the NFC North, but it would not surprise me, guys, if this is a team that is making a playoff push. We saw this team remain in the mix last year, despite having the worst quarterback play probably in the NFC for much of the year. Even if you're not a huge Kyler Murray supporter, even if you don't think, he's going to turn over a new leaf in Minnesota, you at least have to admit this is going to be significantly better than Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer and, of course, J.J. McCarthy a year ago. So I think there's still a really high floor in Minnesota. And if the Kyler thing hits, this could be a 10 or 11 win team. The team I'm a little bit lower on, though, is the Green Bay Packers. And look, I say that sitting here in the state of Wisconsin. I've had to sit down with some friends and say, all right, I want to temper expectations this year. I think the defense could get off to a slow start with no Micah Parsons. I think cornerback is still an issue. I think linebacker remains an issue. And this might be, at least on paper, the most question marks we've had about a Green Bay Packers offensive line going into a season in a long time.
Nick, want to ask you, Paulie and I were talking about earlier, the Rams of 5-1 to win the Super Bowl this year. Do you think they should be that big of a favorite here when looking at the complexion of the NFL?
Probably not that big of a favorite, but you understand why, right? I was listening to a podcast over the weekend and somebody said, this is maybe the most talented roster that we've seen in decades in the NFL. And at first I kind of recoiled at that. And the more I thought about it, it's like, yeah, there aren't that many teams that I think you would put in that category, especially, with the way the modern salary cap works. I totally understand why the market is reacting as it is. I do think Aaron Donald is eventually going to join this team. And even at this age, even being a couple years out from retirement, he's still probably one of the 15 to 20 best defensive tackles in the NFL at worst. So I understand the hype around the LA Rams, but the thing I worry about is this time last year, guys, Matthew Stafford was sitting in some sort of like futuristic spaceship hyperbaric chamber, at training camp. We were very much worried about how much he had left in the tank. Devontae Adams is getting up there in terms of years. He feels like he has a leg injury every year. I very much worry about Puka Nacua and his style of play. Now, I don't think he actually missed any time last year, but nobody goes to the blue tent more often than Puka Nacua. So it is an older roster. It is certainly a top-heavy roster. But when you look around the NFL, every hole you could pick in last year's Rams team, it feels like they found a way to plug it.
Follow the money, Paulie and Moose, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Nick Whalen, our guest on the Progressive Guest Line. Catch him every day on Prop Points. Shifting gears to the NBA. Haven't had a chance to talk to you in the crazy offseason. Let's start with the Pistons, who were the 1 seed but lost Harris. You don't know what's going to happen with Duren. And there are 10 teams that are odds on to make the playoffs at Caesars. 2 of those teams are going to be a major disappointment and miss completely. How about with the strength of the East that the Pistons go under their win total?
Yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as to say they'll miss the playoffs, but I would not be surprised if Detroit ends up in that play-in zone in the Eastern Conference. And that's not even necessarily a knock on the Pistons. It's more so a nod to the strength of the Eastern Conference, which is not something that we've said very often over the last 15 or 20 years. It's been a long time since you could argue that the East was better or deeper than the West. But I think on paper, that's how things are shaping up. And part of that assumes that the Kawhi Leonard trade, of course, goes through. I think that significantly changes things for the Toronto Raptors. But, when you look at that win total for Detroit, I was hoping we would get this in like the low to mid 50s, kind of, piggybacking off of that hype from last year. But I think the market is seeing what I see and what a lot of other people see, which is Detroit having basically a best case regular season last year, outside of Cade Cunningham missing some time toward the end with that collapsed lung. Everything came together for the Pistons. I think they played above their level, and then we got to the playoffs and the bubble burst, unsurprisingly. And, this offseason, we saw so many teams in the Eastern Conference shake things up, make additions, get better. I don't think Detroit's gotten any better. If anything, I think they've probably gotten worse. And again, this is a team that I think in a lot of ways defied some of the numbers. They were one of the 3 worst three-point shooting teams in the NBA last year, both in terms of volume and percentage. I don't think they've really done anything to remedy that. So, yeah, I would love to, be a firmer under on the Detroit Pistons. I'm still under at 50.5, but I was hoping we'd get this at like 53.5.
Nick, how about Denver? Everyone out west focuses on San Antonio, who lost to the Knicks in the finals, and obviously OKC. What's your take on where Denver stands complexion of the Western Conference NBA?
Yeah, I think there's this idea going around that the Denver Nuggets have maybe missed their window to win another title. And that may be true just because of the strength of OKC and San Antonio. But when it comes to the win total, which you'll find around 49.5, I'm still an over on that. I mean, Denver got to 53 wins last year in what felt like a worst case regular season. I mean, they had the opposite of the Detroit Pistons. Everybody got hurt. Nikola Jokic missed double-digit games for the first time in his career. Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, all these guys missed time. I mean, there was only a handful of games where they had even 4 of their 5 regular starters. So, part of it is just a health bet where you think some of those things that went wrong last season probably come back around. Part of what makes Nikola Jokic the best player in the NBA still, in my opinion, is that durability. And I think it's likely to me that he returns to being that ultra durable superstar this year. We also saw an elevated version of Jamal Murray last season. He's a big part of the reason they still got to 53 wins. So even though it feels like maybe Denver doesn't have that same title ceiling, doesn't have that same upside as the top 2 teams in the West, I still see this as pretty easily a 50-plus win team.
Okay. The Bulls were playing good ball until they started tanking, and then they traded everybody as well. Everyone likes Wilson, the top 5 pick, and how well he played in Summer League. What do you think of the Bulls win total?
For the first time in my life, guys, I'm looking at the Bulls win total and saying I like the over. And I would encourage you, by the way, if you're betting these early NBA win totals, make sure you shop around because you are seeing at times 2 or even 3 win differences between books. And we're talking major books here. I mean, the Bulls are at 27.5 at DraftKings. I believe it's 29.5 over at FanDuel. So obviously you want to take that lower number. You mentioned him with Chicago. I mean, it's not like they were on pace to win 50 games or anything like that, but I think last season looks worse because they pulled the plug, because they completely tanked down the stretch. And there's no longer an incentive to do that the way the NBA is structured. So on one hand, you're not getting as many free wins against the truly bad teams, maybe that you were in the past. But I think Chicago has kind of elevated itself above that bottom tier. I think this could be a play-in team in the Eastern Conference. Now, depth is going to be an issue. That's the big concern for me, but I really like the starting 5 on paper. Josh Giddey, bringing in Norm Powell, who was an all-star last year, Matas Buzelis, who's quietly gotten a lot better over the last 2 seasons, Caleb Wilson, who you mentioned was fantastic in Summer League, and they actually have a real NBA starting center for the first time in a couple of years in Nicholas Claxton, who they rescued from the Brooklyn Nets. He's somebody, his stock has really fallen off over the last couple seasons, but I think a lot of it was just being on the Brooklyn Nets, being a part of this team that truly was not trying to win. And I think he's somebody who could play significantly better in a competitive situation. So I will not be surprised, guys, if the Chicago Bulls are back where they want to be, competing for a play-in spot.
Nick, we have about 2 minutes left. How about Dallas? Return of Kyrie, Cooper Flag, year 2. What's your take on the Mavs win total?
Yeah, the Mavs are another over for me, guys. And, the Western Conference, again, we always think of it as being so difficult, but I think the tables have turned a little bit. I think there may be some free wins on the table in the Western Conference, but I love this Mavs team. And this was a team that was floating around 500 through 40, 50 games, and another team that completely pulled the plug. I want to say they were like 6-26 or something over their final 32 games. They were without Kyrie for the entire year. They had injuries all over the roster. For one, I think Cooper Flag takes a huge step forward. I think he is absolutely the real deal. Final 25 games of last season, he was playing like a probably second or third team all NBA player. You get Kyrie back, even if you pencil in 20 to 25 missed games for him as usual, they have a lot of depth on this roster. I like a lot of the pieces they brought in. They made some nice moves on the margins, and they have a ton of depth up front, specifically Derek Lively coming back from injury, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington. They bring in Morez Johnson out of Michigan. So I kind of see them in the same breath as the Chicago Bulls in the East. You know, not a team that you're looking at as a dark horse title contender or anything crazy like that, but will not be surprised, guys, if the Mavericks end up as maybe the 9 or the 10 seed in the West and try to sneak their way into the playoffs.
Great to talk to you, my man. Good stuff, and pleasure. Looking forward to it the rest of the season now that NFL's here. Appreciate you.
Good to be back, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
you
man.
won't believe what this baseball card sold for over the weekend, and some vicious beats in MLB win-lose coming up next.
Week 10, Circus Survivor. And this weather is giving a few people concern.
We've been saying it for 2 months. Week 10 is a problem. Upset alert. You see the Bills. You ever get that feeling when things start to go wrong for your team?
God bless these people. I can't believe nobody's had a heart attack. Any given Sunday, anything can and will happen.
If you're going to go down on your terms.
We're getting that gauntlet, and I think it's going to get pretty tough at this point.
Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on VSiN. Check out Stormy and JVT on Money Moves, only on VSiN.
They weren't playing catch. They were playing drops out there a lot for Boise State offensively.
No, screw that, okay? There's no class. There's no sportsmanship. We're trying to win games here, all right?
They'll take you on a fun, fast-paced journey, weaving in everything you need to know to make an educated bet, while also not shying away from the excitement of a same-game parlay sweat. Money Moves, weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Win Some, Lose Some is sponsored by the Sharp Plays.
Were you a winner last night?
Wow, winning.
Or was it a rough one?
Well, they can't all be winners, can they?
Loser! You're a loser!
Paulie Howard recaps the night in sports betting in Win Some, Lose Some.
Let's start off with a bang and golf at the Wyndham. Michael Brennan, 72-1 to win it. He walks away with $1.5 million, and a Follow the Money viewer had it for, how about this, $1,000. I think it was some odds boost, some free play he had, whatever. He put $1,000 on it. There's the ticket that he hit at DraftKings for $72,000. That's incredible.
That's insane.
I know.
That is insane. You take $1,000, whatever it is, and you're putting it on Brennan at 72-1 to win the Wyndham Championship. That is an amazing play.
Yeah. Tip jar. There's your winner for tip jar already. You can figure out the rest of the year for that. That is awesome. UFC, the Lopez fight to end in the last 10 seconds of any round, 35-1. That's great that's even offered at DraftKings. Salkid by sub round 1, 14-1. Lou Finicaro on the show Thursday to talk about the UFC card. Saturday, MLB, McCarthy to go deep twice, 100-1. Naylor, likewise, 100-1. Lombard was 9-1 to hit a home run. He gets it done. What do you think of this kid? Is he the real deal?
You can play defense. I mean, Paulie, Yankee fans had to watch Gleyber Torres at short, Anthony Volpe, Jose Caballero at shortstop. I'll tell you, and guys I talked to that watched Lombard through the farm system said, elite level defensively. They weren't sure about his bat, but you look at first 5 games as a major leaguer, he's hit 2 home runs, one to left field, one taking advantage as he did on Saturday, which you mentioned, short right field porch against the Atlanta Braves.
That was a great series, a fun series.
No, unbelievable.
Yes.
How about the Yankees? How about the Yankees on Sunday losing that game in extra innings to the Braves, and Cam Schlittler had 11 strikeouts and 96 pitches over 7 innings.
Trout homers Friday on his birthday. Again, I'm glad I mentioned it. Plus 450. He went deep in his first at bat. He has now played 8 games on his birthday and hit a home run 6 times. That's baseball, Susan. The Red Sox couldn't lose a series, and the A's hadn't won a series since out here against the Rockies in early June. And the A's were 3-. Mitch mentioned it. He goes, they're going to do it because it's baseball. They were 3-1 at Caesars to take 2 out of 3. And after getting pounded Friday, that's exactly what they did. That's incredible. The first time they won a series in 13 tries.
That is insane, and that was a Red Sox team. Think about that. The Rays and the Braves and the Red Sox each lost this series this weekend, and both were riding 8-game winning streaks going into Friday at the start of the series, and both of them ended up losing the series. Yankees obviously take 2 or 3 from Atlanta, and Boston falls to that series against the A's.
Yes. WNBA, this is correct. The Liberty from 1.5 up to 13.5. The Aces sat everyone on a back-to-back, and the Liberty pummeled them, and the Mystics did it again. Washington has covered now 8 in a row in the WNBA. Subscribe, be part of the team, VSiN.com. Our radio and podcast friends, you always want to see these tweets and videos at Paulie Does Vegas on Instagram. Send them in, we'll put you on. Several people sent this to me. I think Justin sent it to me as well. How good is this, Moose? His 2 dogs. The sister is deaf. And he points out every time, hey, time for dinner. Come on. As the one dog.
That's amazing.
Isn't that something? The one dog is deaf, and the guy comes over every time and says, it's time for dinner. Let's go. To alert the dog who's taking a nap.
Are you a dog owner, Paulie?
Oh, yes.
Are you a dog owner?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love dogs. I got a dog, too, Chip, a mini golden doodle. They're the best. Dogs are the best. That is amazing. Like, you look at that video, you watch that, it shows you just how, number one, how smart they are and how much they care. That's awesome.
Yes. Man's best friend. But I think the other factor is every time you come home, you get the hero's welcome. Like you've been away for 2 weeks. Isn't that the best?
No doubt.
They greet you at the door? Yeah.
Right. I get a wife. I have a wife and 3 kids. My kids used to run to the door when they were younger. They're 13, 11, and 9. Yeah. Now they don't get off the couch. The only one that greets me is the dog.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You got to love it. Be careful. The future of the industry. I reached out to an expert again, John Calvecchio. I'm quoting here. He said the person that bought this card is, quote, a moron and not a true collector. The Keith Olbermann Honus Wagner card that we talked about that was altered, and then the guy who did it, you couldn't get a hold of him and track him down. It sold for $1.3 million over the weekend. That it was he just had the slab of the picture, and then the guy did the background. It's not even the same color as the original Wagner card, but even though it was altered, someone paid $1.3 million for it. Some thought they'd go for $2.5 or $2 million, but it went for 1.3 over the week. I cannot believe the card business, the card collecting business, how much money's involved with this. It's astonishing, isn't it?
Well, it's crazy. I mean, and I think it was termed the Franken-Wagner.
That's
right. I think is basically because it was restored.
Yes.
Yes. And they did all that right.
Yes.
So
it's not
why would you pay $1.3 million for that for the Overman card? I mean, and listen, I don't understand how some of these cards are going for what they're going for. And, in today's day and age, and that industry has absolutely exploded in the last 5 years. But I think the original Honus Wagner card, I think the last sold about a year and a half ago for north of $6 million. So This one was restored, $1.3 million. I don't know. And I agree. I don't know why you'd necessarily buy something that's not original and it's restored.
One positive note, Oberman did say a lot of the money's going to go to animal shelters and dog surgeries. He's a big dog guy. One lose some. Yeah. It was in that Liberty game because the Aces sat everybody 183 down to 174.5 with the total, and some bad beats. Friday night, the Braves led the Yankees 2-0 in the bottom of the ninth, and they were 2 outs. And the Yankees rallied to tie it, and they won it in extras 3-2. The Braves were plus $1.20. Diaz blew back-to-back saves. He's been a gas can. The Dodgers were $1.70 on Friday. He blew it as the Diamondbacks walked it off and took 2 out of 3. Football season's here. Sharp money already moving. Exclusive data feeds from 4 major books. Thousands of sharp bettors and pro syndicates tracked in real time before the market moves. All of it filtered and sorted by version 6.0 of their AI model. Every play logged, every result public. Records go back to 2011. Live logs since 2021. It all feeds a live performance terminal. Check it out anytime. No login, no paywall, no steam chasing, no stale trends, no recycled plays. Look for the daily Mr. Poison tweets. Follow the sharp money at sharpplays.com. Over the weekend, Judge said, I'm going to come back. That I don't know why people are questioning that, but the offenses, they're still hanging in there and playing good ball. They're not going to be able to catch the Rays, in my opinion. But we still don't know an expected return date, but they have to get him back as he's been out since May 31st, Moose.
Yeah, he suffered the injury April 26th, I think, diving for a baseball and tried to play through for a month. It was atrocious offensively, Paulie. But I think when he initially went on the IL, the thought process was that he was going to be back at some point this week. And obviously that's not happening. Along with Judge saying he's going to be back, the Yankees announced that he's resuming some physical activity, not resuming baseball activities, not going to be swinging a bat or doing anything like that. And I think they're probably, looking at some point in the month of September. Listen, I've said it before. I've got asked a lot about it here in the New York area, Paulie, in terms of, do you think Judge, listen, even if he's not 100%, I do think Judge is going to push to get back into that lineup to try and be part of October. I really do. So I think he'll be back with this team. I don't know about Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, he's more of a mystery after re-injuring his calf, after initially suffering the calf injury weeks and months ago. Bellinger will be back in the better part of a month now. He's been out a couple weeks with that hamstring injury, but they need that because their offense right now, even with Ramos being added from the Giants and Garcia being added from the Washington Nationals, they are very, very quiet offensively and go through long offensive droughts.
Yep. They are 28th in OPS and 27th in runs since he went down. They are 30 and 29 since he went out. And I guess that the fact that they're still hanging in there is a positive. But
it's really, I mean, Paulie, it's really about the pitching. I don't mean to interrupt you. I mean, that's the differentiation. We mentioned Schlittler had 11 strikeouts on Sunday. Cole had 9 strikeouts on Saturday against the Atlanta Braves. Really, the big three of Fried, Schlittler, and Cole, that's going to be able to keep them and keep their heads above water and be able to keep them in games. And not to mention, Rodon's on the mend. He made a rehab start at Scranton Wilkes-Barre, their AAA affiliate, on Friday night, through 3 innings, I believe, and about 48, 49 pitches in that rehab start. So they'll get Rodon back, which will make it a big 4 for that Yankee team coming down the stretch. But I'm in agreement with you. I think the Rays are gone. I don't think the Yankees have enough to be able to catch Tampa unless Tampa goes through some sort of a late August, September swoon. I think Tampa has shown themselves to be too good.
I know someone who went to the game Saturday and loved it. First time, toured Monument Park. Couldn't believe it. All the history. $18 for a beer, though, and $24 for a burger.
It's insane. Did you get the steak sandwich? I think the steak sandwich is like $35.
Oh,
I mean, like, it's insane.
Oh,
yeah. You want
God.
sushi? They've got sushi for you too, Paulie. Just give me a hot dog, a pretzel, and a beer. I'm good to go. I don't necessarily need to eat a grilled steak sandwich while I'm enjoying a Yankee game.
Outrageous. You're in for $200 just with the food if you take 3 people with you. My God. Todd is up next. You know him as I Love My Baxter on X. He's been on the show